Welcome to This Explainer. I want you to think back for a second. Almost every adult in the English-speaking world has, at some point, sat in a dark room, lightly placed their fingers on a plastic planchette, and felt this sudden, cold wave of dread as it slowly started to slide across the letters. It's this intensely eerie, suspenseful sensory detail that just sticks with you for a lifetime, right? But today, we're going to tear away the supernatural myths. We're going to look at the Ouija board's very real documented paper trail to uncover the astonishing scientific anomalies and the purely capitalist history that actually makes this thing work.
Okay, so put yourself back in that dark room. Your heart is pounding. You absolutely swear you aren't pushing it. And your friends? They swear they aren't pushing it either. The denial of agency is so automatic, so universal, and literally impossible to shake, even if you know exactly how the board works. So the million-dollar question is, if nobody is consciously guiding it, what on earth is driving this phenomenon?
Well, to understand that, we first need to realize that our modern dread of the board is actually a pretty recent invention. Before William Peter Blatty's 1971 novel, The Exorcist, which, by the way, was based on a supposedly real 1949 possession case, the Ouija board was just a popular, completely harmless parlor game. It was just innocent, spooky fun. In fact, in 1966, when Parker Brothers bought the rights, it literally outsold Monopoly. But The Exorcist changed the game entirely. It cemented the board as this dangerous, demonic pop culture staple, completely shifting its legacy overnight.
Part 1. Capitalists, not mediums.
So let's look at the actual origins. The men who patented this device, they were ruthless businessmen cashing in on a post-Civil War trend, absolutely not spiritualists. In 1890, the Kennard Novelty Company was formed in Baltimore. By 1891, a businessman named Elijah Bond filed the U.S. patent, and his partner Charles Kennard registered the trademark. But business is cutthroat, right? By 1892, an employee named William Fuld essentially staged a coup. He took over production, pushed the founders out, and spent the rest of his life aggressively defending the copyright through endless litigation. To give you an idea of how unmagical this all was, when William Fuld was asked in 1920 if he actually believed the board could contact spirits, he scoffed and said, "I should say not. I'm no spiritualist. I'm Presbyterian." Yet the really wild part is that the device's core behavioral rule, the fact that it only functions when multiple users touch it simultaneously and no one consciously guides it, was documented as a genuine psychological anomaly. The American Society for Psychical Research actually recorded this during Fuld's 1919 deposition, and those records are sitting right now in the Smithsonian Institution Archives. This was all from Fuld, a guy who stamped inventor on the back of his products and sued his own brother to maintain a monopoly, even though a local cabinet maker named E.C. Reich was very likely the true creator.
And get this, even the incredibly eerie name Ouija is just a fantastic piece of marketing legend. The story goes that back in 1890, a medium named Helen Peters, who just happened to be Elijah Bond's sister-in-law, was testing the prototype. She supposedly asked the board what it should be called, and it spelled out Ouija. When she asked what that meant, the board allegedly replied, "Good luck." Now, whether you're a hardcore believer or a total skeptic, you've got to admit, a product literally naming itself is an absolute stroke of commercial genius.
Part 2. Patenting the paranormal. So how exactly do you patent the paranormal in the United States? Well, you don't. The Patent Office didn't validate ghosts. They simply recognized the novel mechanical combination of a flat board and a three-legged planchette as a unique game apparatus. The application claimed the thing worked, sure, but it crucially didn't say how it worked. If Elijah Bond had made any reference to the intervention of spirits in that paperwork, it would have been rejected outright as an unprovable, abstract concept. But of course, the marketers couldn't resist spinning a good ghost story out of it. According to this legendary piece of marketing lore, the board only secured its patent after a highly skeptical chief patent officer demanded a live demonstration. Supposedly, Elijah Bond and Helen Peters sat down right there in the office, and the board accurately spelled out the officer's full name, instantly securing his approval. Look, it's almost certainly a myth, but man, did it perfectly feed the aura of mystery surrounding the product. As time went on, the physical marketing evolved quite a bit. For decades, Fuld never actually advertised the board with ghost imagery. He focused purely on its ability to answer questions. It wasn't until 1941, well after William Fuld had passed away, that his son finally caved to the public's spooky perception of the game. He added this creepy blue ghost to the box art, which was actually modeled after the famous Eternal Silence statue in Chicago's Graceland Cemetery. He leaned fully into the supernatural brand.
Part 3. The ideomotor phenomenon.
Okay,
let's get into the real science here. If it's just cardboard and plastic made by businessmen, why does it genuinely feel like it moves on its own? The answer lies in this fascinating psychological concept from 1852 called the ideomotor phenomenon, a term coined by William B. Carpenter. Basically, your brain and body have this incredible quirk. Your muscles can reflexively react to ideas alone, without you consciously deciding to take action. When you place your hands on that planchette, your subconscious expectations of where it should go trigger microscopic, completely involuntary muscular movements.
And the crazy thing is, the ideomotor effect is happening to you all the time, long before you ever touch a planchette. Have you ever spontaneously cried at a sad movie, jumped when startled, extended your arms automatically when you trip and fall? Those are all ideomotor responses. Historically, this exact same biological phenomenon explains 19th century table turning, the sudden twitch of a water dowser's rod, and even the famous pendulum illusion.
This is where it gets really mind-bending. Cognitive psychologist Ray Hyman at the University of Oregon deeply investigated this in his 1977 studies. He actually replicated the planchette's movement under blindfolded conditions. He found that subjects consistently denied having any agency over the movement, even when his instrumental sensors confirmed they were the sole source of force. This dissociation was so uniform across totally unconnected subject pools that Hyman flagged the self-attribution gap, the denial, not the physical movement itself, as the true phenomenon that no model had explained. The raw trial transcripts for this are actually held at the Oregon Archive and have never been fully published, but they definitively document how honest, incredibly intelligent people unconsciously engage in muscular activity that matches their expectations.
Part 4. Eye tracking the subconscious.
To truly understand how this illusion takes hold in a group setting, researchers from Aarhus University in Denmark ran an amazing study. They strapped high-tech eye trackers to 40 experienced Ouija board users and tested them under 2 very specific conditions. In the voluntary action condition, participants were told to just deliberately move the planchette to spell words. But in the Ouija condition, they were asked to use the board normally in pairs, just waiting for the quote-unquote spirits to guide them. The scientists specifically wanted to see if the participants' eyes darted toward the letters before the planchette actually moved there. The data revealed something absolutely incredible. In the Ouija condition, the pairs subconsciously predicted the letters with their eyes just as accurately as when they were intentionally spelling. So why does it feel so undeniably spooky? Well, the researchers found that joint action is the critical ingredient here. When 2 people share the planchette, they take turns subconsciously predicting the letters. But because of a neurological glitch in how our brains process shared movement, we severely underestimate our own physical force when it's combined with someone else's. Add in a pre-existing spiritual belief, and that illusion of an external ghostly force becomes incredibly powerful.
Part 5. The real ghost inside.
This brings us to the ultimate realization of what the Ouija board is actually communicating with: the hidden power of your own mind. Consider this 2011 study from the University of British Columbia. They asked participants a series of fact-based general knowledge questions. When answering with a regular pen and paper, they scored nominally. But when they were asked the exact same types of questions and used a Ouija board to answer, their scores actually improved. By relinquishing conscious control and letting that ideomotor effect take over, the board allowed them to access latent knowledge buried deep within their own subconscious. To wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to take away. We've traced the Ouija board all the way from a shrewd 1890 business patent to modern eye-tracking laboratories. We now know that the board isn't powered by spirits, but rather by a psychological glitch so perfect, so deeply ingrained in our biology, that it seamlessly moves our hands entirely without our consent. And if our subconscious mind is capable of orchestrating all of that in the dark while completely hiding it from our conscious awareness, what else is it doing without us knowing?